I knew something was wrong the moment I saw the drone footage, an enormous turquoise pool shimmering behind a mansion I didn't recognize, sitting directly on land I'd owned for 24 years. And the worst part? The HOA president, Karen, was proudly hosting a party on it, like she owned the entire world. This wasn't a mistake. It was a theft, bold, deliberate, and unbelievably stupid. But trust me, she had no idea who she was dealing with. It started 3 months earlier, when survey markers vanished from the back edge of my rural lot. I thought maybe wind, maybe kids, maybe wildlife. I simply hammered new stakes and moved on with life. But Karen, yes, the HOA Karen, had bigger plans. She'd been eyeing my property, claiming it would make her house more symmetrical. Apparently, symmetry justified trespassing. The mansion itself wasn't originally hers. Rumors said she married into money, divorced even richer, then climbed her way to HOA president like it was royalty. She ruled with fines, threats, and humiliation, disguised as community standards. So when she decided my land was hers, she didn't ask. She just acted. The construction trucks arrived next. Excavators, cement mixers, pallets of tiles. I assumed the HOA approved a neighborhood pool, but no one contacted me. No permit notices were posted. Then the noise stopped, and the gates closed. Weeks later, the drone I was testing captured everything. Fences, cabanas, a hot tub, and a massive pool sitting 10 feet over my property line. At first I laughed. Who builds a luxury pool on land they don't own? Then I remembered who, Karen, the queen of entitlement. So I tried being reasonable. I approached her gate, rang the bell, and politely explained the situation. She didn't even open the door. Through the speaker, she said, "Property lines are flexible. And anyway, the HOA supports me." Then she hung up. That sentence changed everything. I hired a surveyor, then a lawyer, then a second surveyor, just to eliminate doubt. The results were identical. 27% of her brand new pool sat on my deeded land. When I delivered the documents to her personally, she smirked and said, "Sue me." She believed the HOA shielded her, like a legal force field protecting her ego. But I wasn't backing down. Because when someone steals from you, you don't negotiate, you reclaim. And I promised myself Karen would regret every drop of water in that pool. Neighbors whispered, unsure whose side to take. Some admitted Karen bragged for weeks, calling the pool her legacy. Others warned the HOA punished anyone questioning her. The absurdity kept me awake. My land, my taxes, yet she splashed around like royalty. That pool wasn't just concrete, it was a declaration of war now. Lawyers love paper, but Karen loved attention. And unfortunately for her, this fight was going to give me both. The first hearing wasn't about winning, it was about proving ownership. My attorney walked in carrying rolled surveys, tax receipts, photographs, and the original deed my grandfather signed 40 years ago. Karen arrived 10 minutes late, wearing sunglasses indoors, followed by 2 HOA board members like backup dancers. She didn't look nervous. She looked annoyed, like the judge had interrupted her manicure. When the surveyor testified, the room shifted. The line wasn't mistaken, unclear, or debatable. The pool sat on my soil, without permission or permit. Karen rolled her eyes and whispered loudly, "This is ridiculous." The judge lifted a brow like he agreed. With me. He ordered a temporary stop-use ruling. No parties, no guests, no water additions, no access to my land. Karen's jaw dropped. HOA members gasped like someone canceled Christmas. But the ruling didn't drain the pool. And Karen still believed defiance was a personality trait. 2 nights later, lights flickered on behind her mansion again. Laughter, splashing, music. She was hosting another gathering. I recorded everything from my legal easement, time-stamped and documented. Karen wasn't just ignoring the judge, she was daring him. The next hearing came faster than she expected. Her attorney blamed a misunderstanding, but the judge wasn't amused. He expanded the order, giving me full legal authority to secure my land, including draining anything trespassing onto it. When word spread, neighbors changed sides. People approached me privately, confessing Karen bullied them for years. Fines for mailbox colors, lawn chairs, even parking angles. Suddenly, the queen of control looked like a reckless trespasser. But Karen didn't back down. She threatened to sue me for property value damages, claiming my land was better off under her pool. That sentence became Exhibit C. My lawyer nearly laughed. Still, something felt unfinished. Winning injunctions was temporary. I wanted permanent ownership acknowledged, and consequences served. So we filed a full civil suit. Trespass, encroachment, illegal construction, and willful disregard of property boundaries. That was when everything escalated, because Karen wasn't afraid of the law. She was afraid of losing an audience. And soon, everyone would be watching. HOA emergency meetings were held, and rumors spiraled like tornadoes. Some claimed Karen forged approval forms. Others said she promised the board access to the pool if they stayed quiet. One anonymous resident emailed me, blueprints clearly showing my land, labeled as future extension. That document was gold. My attorney smiled like a shark. Karen tried intimidating me next. She confronted me near the property line, accusing me of ruining her reputation. But reputations aren't stolen, they're earned. I simply recorded her tantrum and forwarded it to my lawyer. Silence followed, but I waited. The morning the court granted access, the sky looked like it knew something dramatic was coming. Reporters stood across the street, neighbors peeked through curtains, and Karen paced behind her iron gate like a caged celebrity unwilling to admit the show was over. I wasn't excited. I was exhausted. Months of filings, hearings, surveys, and stress had replaced sleep with strategy. But now, the law finally had teeth, and they were pointed at Karen. A licensed contractor arrived with pumps, hoses, and paperwork stamped by the judge himself. Karen stormed out, waving her phone, shouting that draining the pool would destroy her landscaping, reputation, and mental health. The contractor calmly responded, "Ma'am, this water is on land that does not belong to you." For the first time, she looked genuinely scared. Neighbors gathered behind me, some recording, others whispering, all silently rooting for justice. As the pump roared to life, water gushed through the hoses, spilling into a containment tank like liquid evidence. Karen screamed that she'd sue everyone, including the judge, the city, and maybe even gravity. But nobody reacted, not even her loyal HOA board members, who suddenly kept their distance like she was contagious. 3 hours later, the pool sat empty, exposing cracked tiles, jagged plaster, and an ugly truth. She built carelessly because she believed consequences didn't apply to her. For the first time, she had to face the emptiness she created, literally and figuratively. But draining the water wasn't the victory. It was merely the invitation. The civil trial was scheduled for 6 weeks later, and Karen had no idea what evidence waited for her. Residents anonymously delivered emails, meeting transcripts, and records proving Karen manipulated the HOA for personal gain. She fined single mothers for toys left outside, elderly couples for faded paint, and veterans for flying flags she didn't like. This wasn't a pool dispute anymore. It was a reckoning. And when the HOA realized Karen put the entire neighborhood at legal and financial risk, panic set in. Board members resigned quietly at night, leaving apologetic letters taped to doors like abandoned confessions. Karen, once untouchable, now stood alone, clutching a stack of legal notices like a life raft made of paper. She called me that night, voice trembling, offering a settlement, money, landscaping repairs, even an apology. For a moment, I almost felt bad, but then I remembered her laughing behind that gate, dismissing the surveys, daring me to sue her. So I rejected the offer, politely, clearly, and permanently. Because justice isn't negotiated. It's earned, documented, and enforced. And soon, everyone would learn exactly what Karen built. Not a pool, but a courtroom disaster. The neighborhood wasn't divided anymore. It was united, waiting for the final verdict like a season finale they'd waited years for. Justice was finally coming. The courtroom felt colder on verdict day, despite the crowded benches and humming fluorescent lights. Karen sat rigidly, lips pressed together, hands trembling beneath the polished table. I didn't feel triumphant, only tired, like someone who'd carried a boulder uphill for months and finally set it down. The judge shuffled papers, cleared his throat, and began. He declared the land legally mine, reaffirmed boundaries, and ruled Karen knowingly trespassed, constructed without permits, and weaponized her HOA position. The pool wasn't just encroaching. It was illegal from blueprint to final tile. Then came the sentence. Mandatory demolition, full restoration, legal fees, damages, and public notice. Karen's face collapsed, mascara dissolving like ink in rain. The HOA wasn't spared. The judge ordered a complete audit, temporary dissolution, and community elections. Neighbors gasped, then exhaled together, like a pressure valve finally released. Karen's legacy ended with a gavel strike. Outside, reporters swarmed, but I didn't give speeches. I drove home, parked near the empty cement crater, and listened to wind rustle through weeds reclaiming space. Justice isn't loud. Sometimes it's silent, patient, inevitable. Demolition crews arrived 3 weeks later. I watched excavators bite through concrete, cracking the pool like an eggshell. Karen didn't show. Rumors said she moved out overnight, leaving behind a house stripped of confidence. Neighbors brought lemonade, folding chairs, and relief. Some apologized for staying silent. I didn't blame them. Fear makes cowards. Power attracts bullies. When the land was finally cleared, grass sprouted again. I walked the boundary, breathing easier than I had in years. It wasn't about winning money, titles, or revenge. It was about reminding people that ownership matters, respect matters, and entitlement eventually collapses under its own weight. Months later, the neighborhood elected new leaders. Kinder voices, people who understood community means cooperation, not control. They thanked me for standing up, but I only smiled. Sometimes you don't choose battles. They arrive already paved in concrete and chlorine. Today, when sunlight hits the grass, you'd never guess a mansion once stole the land beneath it. And maybe that's the real victory. Not proving someone wrong, but reclaiming what was always yours. Peace replaced conflict. Ownership replaced trespass. Balance returned quietly, confidently, permanently. And every time I walk that property line, I remember one thing. No one can take what you defend with truth. Patience and proof. If you enjoyed this wild HOA story, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, smash the like, and drop a comment telling us what you would do if this happened to you.